the kind of leads that I have seen and tracked with social media is you are projecting a happy buyer. That is why you're getting buyers coming to you. Okay? So you need to start thinking about your marketing and how you want to function. I find social media, if you get a listing and you put it on Facebook, it calms the seller down because they feel you're doing something, but also what it does is bring buyers in. It's not bringing sellers in. Bringing sellers in is more directly, I see, beneficial by doing exactly what Andy's doing. That's what we do. We focus on circle prospecting. We focus on calling around homes here's an example of what I would tell you to do. If you're doing that amount of buyers and the buyer bought in an area where you like that area and you would like to have a couple listings in that area, how about you call that area and say, hey, I just wanted to introduce you have new neighbors, John and Mary just moving in down the street. And I noticed that you were on the market before, or I still have other buyers. Do you know anybody else in the neighborhood that's thinking of buying or selling a home? Now, what you did is you are using the buyer that you have to make that call. And you really had that buyer. So now think about this. I am not big on postcards, and I've never, ever, 1 year did 71,000 cards, Andy. That's crazy, crazy. But I am big on layering. And a guy told me a long, long time ago about advertising. And he said you should advertise in layers. And one of them being, let's say so now you sold that house, or you had a buyer and you participated in the sale. You can send out a card that you participated in the sale. You can't say you were the listing agent, of course, but you can say you participated in the sale. Now, if you sent 50 cards out to that neighborhood and then picked up the phone and called 100 people in that neighborhood, do you think you would have established your credibility as an agent is established because you sold the house? Now you're building credibility and putting a picture to the face, and then you make your phone calls. You've already established. Can you see how that could be much more beneficial on getting you to where you want to be? Not immediately, but definitely in the future if that became a plan with every buyer you sold. Input?
That's awesome. I love that. I like Andy said earlier, and you even said, I did the postcard thing. I spent hundreds of dollars every time I had a sale. I'd send out just solds and I wouldn't get anything back. And I'm like, I'm spending all this money. So I cut that out my budget. But I love that idea. I heard what Andy said earlier about the circle prospecting. That is a little outside of my comfort zone, but I'm willing to do it. And I like combining it with your idea of saying that, hey, I want to introduce you to your new neighbor. Like, I love that. That's exactly what I needed to hear.
Yeah, Alicia, I mean, what market do you work in?
How it makes out. Thanks.
Will do.
Alicia, what market are you
sit under
working
Andy's wing. And Andy, I started in the Wycomico County area, very heavily in that area, Fruitland, Salisbury, the Somerset, Worcester County area, and then I got my license in Delaware last year. So I'm just breaking ground, mostly in the Kent County area.
So what I was going
and I sell a lot of new construction.
What I was going to lead
sell a
with,
lot of
and
new construction. So.
Okay. Got it. What I was going to lead with is, for those of you and I hate to keep reaching into my market area, but maybe I'll use Bethany because I think there's some Bethany and Fenwick agents. I mean, how many people know the name Vicki York and Leslie Kopp and, and some of the other big names, and primarily their names because they're the listing agent, because you see their signs, right? It took me a long time to figure out that I needed to be a listing agent as much as I loved being a buyer's agent, right? It's why for so long, we bought tens of thousands of dollars in internet leads, and because we thought this is a great opportunity for us to be a buyer's agent. But after reading MREA in 2016, it was literally like someone hit me over the head, and I thought, I need to be a listing agent. What are the tools? What are the systems? What are the methods that I need to follow to be primarily a listing agent? And frankly, as you lean in on becoming a listing agent, buyers come. They call, they inquire, they drive by the house, they call your sign, they call your Zillow lead, they call all of those things. So you get buyers that are actually interested in your listings, and it's an opportunity to capture that buyer. But the money, the use of your time is really should be on the listing side, right? You're likely not going to work every single weekend, right? Because now you're not out showing property every Saturday and Sunday when folks are coming into town. To Carol's point, it's hard to manage 10 or 15 buyers at the same time, but you can easily handle 10 or 15 listings, right? Because every week you can say, what will I do against all 15 listings? Apply that in 4 hours, right? I'm going to make a phone call to the seller every single week and talk about our showings. I'm going to do a Facebook post every other week on this show, on this listing. And it was a light bulb for us. I mean, last year we listed, gosh, I don't have the numbers in front of me, something like 62 properties last year. And this year we're trying to grow to 100, because I know that in a market, whether depressed or super busy, that there is a percentage of those listings that will always sell. And there's no guarantee working with buyers, particularly those that are coming out of state, right? We know that sellers have to sell. Some have to sell, right? And under COVID-19, we have investors who own multiple properties, and all of a sudden Airbnb and VRBO and their rental market shuts down. All of a sudden there's opportunity, right? You have a single family home buyer. I mean, I have clients who live in my neighborhood. They built a new house in Lewis. It's going to be done on June 15th. They had to go on market April 1st, had to sell their house, right? There will always be people who have to sell and not always people that will have to buy. And so the more you think about growing your own business, it's easy to do the buyers in the beginning, but the long-term opportunity for you to have a career in real estate is around listings. So I'll get off my kind of my hi-hat on that. But guys, as someone who's doing big volume and a lot of transactions, the game in this market, and anybody that you can name who's fairly sizable in real estate are all listing heavy. And they're probably doing a huge amount of buyers too, but they're very listing heavy. So that was the light bulb for me that said, okay, focus all of your efforts. And that's what we've done. We've flip-flopped. We went from being a 70-30 buy side heavy to about 62% list heavy. And if we can go 70% list heavy this year, I'm all in. So again, to kind of recap, this is a list. I've heard, Alicia talk about what she's doing on prospecting. Is there anybody else wants to jump in and talk about some things that you've done on prospecting in order to start filling your pipeline? Garrett, you have anything to offer?
So I just got off a phone call.
Yeah, no worries.
What was the question?
So the question is, what are you doing today to prospect? What are you doing today to kind of like get buyer or selling leads?
I guess I was kind of on a social media day today.
Okay. So, and is that working? Are you getting people who are kind of, talking to you a little bit more about real estate based on your social media stuff?
I think it's creating awareness. I just went home yesterday for Mother's Day, and my mom was also an agent, and she has a bunch of kind of plaques and stuff and awards from years past. I was kind of going to post those and piggyback on her success to, I don't know, make a Mother's Day post, also make it an advertisement as well, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great thing. Like we do a lot of social media stuff, and all of our social media stuff is mostly focused on trying to lean in and provide value. something for you might be, I'm so proud of so proud of what my mom has accomplished in real estate. I can only strive to do that for you, to do that as well. So, right, what you're saying is, I'm not begging for your business, but I'm following the lead of someone who's been a role model and successful in your own life. And how can you create an opportunity for someone to say, hey, listen, I'd love to give you, Garrett, an opportunity to work with you, So it's a lot of agents will say, please give me a call, please give me a call, please give me a call. You're leaning heavily on the experience and success of your mom, and that's why you've embarked on a new real estate career, right?
Right.
So let's kind of move to the next. I mean, we've talked about some prospecting models. I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into some of what that looks like. We're going to talk about open houses. We're going to talk a little bit about social media. We're going to talk about connecting with other KW agents, which is something that we're doing successfully and constantly. That's the third piece of our business on prospecting. So we talked about cold calling. We talked about our sphere of influence, and I'll dive a little bit more into each of those three areas. And the third piece is we are a massive team that relies on, but who get KW referrals. And I'll give you just kind of a little snapshot on how we did that. So in my 8 years at Berkshire Hathaway, I received one referral. I mean, I was the second largest agent in Berkshire Hathaway behind Leanne Wilkinson, who is the largest agent in all of Sussex County and the state of Delaware. And in those 8 years, I didn't get any referrals. After, much contemplating, when I moved my practice over to KW in December of 17, in January of 2018, we started getting referral phone calls. Now, part of that might have been because we have a pretty successful track record on Zillow and some other places, but we received something like 17 referrals in my first year from KW agents. And we probably closed at least 10 of those in 2018. What I decided to do, much like you and digging into your sphere of influence or going out and doing volunteer work, I thought, I'm going to go figure out who the most successful agents are in KW and the 5 surrounding areas that feed our market, right? New Jersey, Maryland, DC, Virginia, Pennsylvania. And I went and literally scraped or just copied the data, went to KW Connect, figured out every single agent in those 5 areas that did more than 9 transactions last year. I had someone who went out and actually copied down their name, their phone number, and their email address. And now I do a 33 touch plan to those guys every single year. This year so far, right now, I think we have something like, just on agent referrals alone, bear with me, I'm going to look it up.
I can jump in here a minute, Andy, while you're doing that.
And so,
Just to piggyback on referrals, we've talked a little bit about them before, and coming from New Jersey, that's one of the huge databases that we use for referrals for ourselves, and having owned agents and taught agents up there for so long. I can tell you in the past week, we gave 3 referrals up to New Jersey. I'm lucky to say that my daughter and my son run a successful team at RE/MAX. So naturally, that's where it went. Those 3 referrals are already under contract. So referrals going back and forth and developing a referral base. And this is why it's important that you go when there are Keller Williams classes that are regional and things like that, because you want to learn to interact. Don't think you only have to find the public for business. The public doesn't have to be your only source of business. Those people called us from being past clients of ours in New Jersey, but we needed agents that make sure that we could give them to. And when you send agents one way, I can tell you you will get it back a double way. And that will also help you establish your credibility. Think about this. I know, when you think you're new and you don't have credibility and you don't really have a big background of stats to really make you big when it comes to referrals, and they're looking in, the white pages to see who they find. But if you take advantage of all the classes that you could do and actually travel a little bit, what's going to happen? Not everybody in there are very experienced agents. A lot of them are newer agents, and newer agents are going to relate to you. And we're, especially if we're down at the beach area, you're in an area of second homes and where people want to go to. So now, if you create that kind of synergism with another agent that's out of your area, and then ask them to pass your name in the office, can you see how that could develop into, at least in the very beginning, maybe an additional 3 to 5 deals a year? Okay, so the referral base and having a connection with your fellow agents is extremely important in the big picture of developing your long-term business. And I think Andy said, what Andy's saying is the same thing I have been preaching, is this is not a sprint. This is a long-term investment. This is building a strong foundation so that you can get to a point of where you're going in with everybody helping you in. So, you know, like Alicia, you use your buyers to find your sellers, okay? For us, we use agents up in New Jersey. Everybody, it's like an exodus out of New Jersey, right? So it's, you know, Delaware down to South Carolina. A lot of the agents that have been in the business as long as Bob and I from up in New Jersey have all went down to South Carolina. I can tell you we've gotten referrals from them in South Carolina up to us now. So it's working that kind of sphere and maintaining a good relationship on the outside, as opposed, and that's why, to me, it's always very important when I work with a co-op agent, I work highly ethical, highly moral, and treat them the way I would like to be. Unlike trying to undercut, hold back, you know, sand pocket a listing, sand pocket an off, whatever it is that some agents, that's their way of doing business. And the beauty, you hear me say this 100 times, but the biggest beauty of real estate is you have a very broad way of staying within the guidelines, but you have the decision-making of how you want to run your business and how you want your name to be out there. So, you know, Bob and I really don't have much of a name in Delaware. I can honestly say that. I mean, we didn't come down here to create a big team and have a big name. But I remember the first year we listed 100 houses up in New Jersey. And that was an amazing, amazing feat and a great feeling. And we did that with 6 people on our team. So it can be done, and it doesn't have to be hard, but it has to be consistent. If you hit or miss on your lead gen, it's not going to happen. If you hit or miss on your cards, it's not going to happen. If you hit or miss on whatever you decide, open houses, you have to have a plan. All right, I'm off my soapbox, Andy. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm giving you guys real exposure to what we're doing. I just screen shared. This is the tracking of our kind of our lead source. So we have a much more extensive database management tool that we use, but this is kind of what I use as kind of a team lead. But you can see here that, you know, we have, I think, 19 referrals. You can see how many we've closed on the agent side, how many we currently have in our pipeline that we're working with, and then how many we actually have pending and closed. So that's 19 so far this year. I suspect we'll end the year with 40 to 50 agent referrals because we are constantly communicating with them. So I told you we really do 3 areas. Agent referral, geographical farm is our cold calling prospecting piece. We do sometimes get a few extras like listing sign call. I had an open house last year at a listing in Canal Corcoran because the seller really wanted me to. I met a guy and looked to see what now that's pending for, right? That one open house, I kept a relationship with him. He's now buying a $2.2 million house, right? And then you can see, more importantly, where a huge amount of our business currently is coming from. I mean, look at here where it starts with past clients, sphere, then referrals from our sphere, you know, friends that are in our sphere. I mean, that's where we're just getting, you know, the majority of our business is coming from that. So, you know, I kind of highlighted earlier, we currently have closed 27. We have 15 pending. And I'll be honest with you, you know, someone asked me earlier today, well, how many have you put pending in the last, you know, since the kind of the COVID-19 thing? So under contract date, you know, we've put all these pending since then. So that I think that that's 19 since COVID-19 has started. So there is a deep amount of business to do, but it is coming from basically the 3 areas that we've talked about: agent referrals, and from our sphere of influence that we've currently done business with are the people that we know.
Andy, quick question about you said when you did the agent referral and you said you reached out to the region area, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and because I sort of was thinking the same thing being a new agent, but what I'm curious about, and you said you put them on like a 33 touch campaign.
Right.
I'm assuming, did you at least in starting that campaign, did you at least try just like, did you call them first and say, hey, listen, this is Andy Staton, I'm down in Delaware, just wanted to reach out, or did you start with the email? The only reason I asked that is because I was thinking about something similar, and coming from the tech industry, when we would see stuff like that come over through our inbox, like let's just say it's something within our own sphere of area, like whether it's the area of technology we shared or it was a competitor or whatever, we just immediately that went to the junk, into our junk box, and we would filter them never to see them again. So I'm curious, how do you do it in such a personal way that you just don't end up in their junk box?
So are you guys seeing my inbox right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so just today we sent out an email we reached out today. This was the email. It basically said, hey, it's Andy Staton. I'm your KW referral partner here in Delaware. I wanted to share with you, our referral partners, 2,100 of them, what we're doing, right? And just so you guys know, when this all started, we stopped like asking for business, and we started to think about what kind of value could we provide to the community and to our sphere of influence. And so every Friday at 11 o'clock, I interview different segments of our community. And this one, I interviewed the CEO of the foundation of BB, a local guy who transformed his wine bag business to a mask business, and then Kathleen Schell, who, if many of you might have heard, the Crush Corona gift card program to buy employees gift cards at BB. And so I use that as an opportunity to send out, to all of those 2,100 agents, like, hey, it's Andy Staton. You know me, I'm your partner. I wanted to share with you what we're doing. I spent the first few weeks, I was angry, I was in disbelief, feeling helpless, but then I thought, what can I do? And this is what we're doing. And so to answer your question, and I'm not sure who was speaking, we literally started with two things. We do slide dial. I don't know if you've heard of slide dial. You can load all the phone numbers up and you can drop a voicemail to 2,000 people. So we drop a slide dial every single month. And then we also are dropping an email every single month. So we did both. I never called any one of them personally. Right. And I haven't even read this email, but it came from Ken Cordade, who has given me a referral in the past. Hey, I'm going to start reaching out to several referral professional groups. Like he's sharing back with me what he's doing. Right. Okay. And I emailed 22 minutes ago. So I don't know if I got any others.
No, that was good. I appreciate it, Andy. And I'm sorry, I butchered your last name. I called you Staton instead of Staton.
That's all right.
So, and this is Steven. So, I mean, it was because this was something very much coming from my area of my past life, so to speak. I'm like, oh, I could do this, but I was just kind of curious how agents are doing this, and I was wondering if you're coming in more of kind of.
Look at this email. I've never met Lisa Languis. I don't know who she is, but hey, thanks for sending me. Keep me in your sphere. You really are going to be my go-to guy when I have a referral, way to stay on top of mind, right? We literally are staying on top of mind with 3 segments, right? Two primarily. We do the cold calling piece, but then the agent core, and I'm happy to pay a 25% referral all day long. Some people have asked for 30. I hem and haw, but every now and then I'll pay 30 as well. So, but that's just a good example of what, where we're actually doing it. So let me see if I can go back to the presentation.
Andy, what system do you use? You don't send that out of command.
I don't send that out of command. So I know we're going to talk a little bit, and I'm hopefully have enough time. We're not yet using command as a team. It's not quite ready. So we use MailChimp to distribute mass emails. It's something that's really easy to use. Maybe you've heard of Constant Contact, MailChimp. There's a couple of others out there. It also will manage all the unsubscribes for you as well, so it's pretty easy. We're doing a lot of volume. We're sending out 30 to 40,000 emails a month, depending on our different segments, and that's costing about $200 a month for that, for MailChimp. So let me see, back to PowerPoint. And I'm happy to share more examples of just exactly that. So are you guys back on PowerPoint? Is that what you're seeing now?
No, still see your email.
Just seeing your email.
All right, stop share. Let me share screen. PowerPoint. Share. There we go. And guys, we can dig into any of these conversations even further if you have more questions about it. But that's one example of what we're doing to communicate out to a group of people that now is feeding us business. So we kind of talked a little bit, and I think part of this program today is really to dig into kind of the 4 areas, and we can expand on others if you have some other ideas. But door knocking, agent to agent referrals, open houses, and of course social media, which I don't have a lot of experience in terms of trying to go after business on social media, but Alicia, there are absolute agents who are doing it. We should hook up afterwards. There's a woman in Washington that 70–80% of her business is hyper focused on social media. They're creating hyper focused groups within communities, and their agents are actually leading community discussions based on that. And so there's a real huge strategy on social media that you can use to go out and get business. So she actually spoke last year. Her name is I'll find it and I'll get back to you on that after our break. So let's dig in. I mean, has anybody ever actually gone through the prospecting of door knocking? No. I'll be honest, nor have I.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, that is the one that I don't want to say, well, terrifies me or just have no comfort level whatsoever doing that.
Yeah, it's hard. But there are agents across the country. I don't know anybody in our local market center that's doing it actively and successfully. But I belong to a couple of Facebook groups. You probably could find one on door knocking and real estate. It is successful. People are picking neighborhoods. They're attempting to have real live conversations. Obviously, today you're probably not going to be doing that. No one's going to be answering the door to someone in a mask. So I don't want to deep dive into this too much because I'd rather have you guys be able to walk away today and say, okay, I'm going to go do this. And I suspect door knocking is probably not that. But one thing that we do in regard to door knocking is we door knock around every open house. So if we're going to have an open house, again, because we're seller heavy, right? Our whole goal is to go after and get sellers. That if we're going to hold an open house at 123 Main Street, we literally will pull up a map and we will go door knock on every single door within 2 to 3 blocks and invite them to our open house. We have a little note card that we printed up on our own printers. It says, hi, my name is Steve. I'm having an open house on Main Street tomorrow from 10 to 11. Perhaps you know someone who wants to join you in this lovely neighborhood. Please come visit my property. Right? So that is a door knocking strategy that we use around our open houses in order to meet more sellers, to put them into our database, to keep them informed of what's going on in the market, and hopefully get a phone call from them. But there are others who are following this strategy who are every single day. So they've said open houses isn't for me. Cold calling isn't for me, but I do want to know, I want to go meet people. And so they literally will pick, 7 developments or 12 developments, and they'll go door knock every single month on those developments to see if they can create relationships and nurture those relationships. Because it is a great way to build a farm if you don't have money, right? Carol talked about, Alicia, you calling in and talking to a community that you might have helped a buyer buy in. If you don't have money to send out those cards, go knock on their doors. Hey, listen, I just helped Sally buy 123 Main Street, right? Do you know anybody else who might want to sell because I have other buyers that are looking, right? I mean, that is about the best that you can do with no money is you can go knock on doors and talk to them about that. So, and just like if anybody's ever been door knocked by a politician, you remember the politician that knocks on your door, right? It takes a lot of guts to do it, Stephen, but it's very, very effective if you can actually, put it together and go do it.
Well, I mean, they said, yeah, absolutely. Depending on, doesn't matter which side of the aisle of Congress you lean toward, they said, one of the being a history nerd, I mean, McCain, one of his biggest runs, they didn't think he would ever win in the Senate, but he did it because in Arizona, they said he would, from sun up to sundown, would knock on every single door and just say, hi, I'm, running for Senate. And they said it was one of the deciding factors that kind of helped push them over. Besides, I'm sure, all the backroom dealing and money, but that is actually a well-known fact.
Right. And what he did, every single time he went and knocked on 100 doors. So full disclosure, you can find it out there. I ran for Delaware State Senate in 2012. My opponent knocked on 40,000 doors and I knocked on 27, with volunteers and things like that. Right. So that we did exactly that. But every single day, it's the same in real estate. Every single day I came back. If I knocked on 50 doors that day, my campaign manager or me in the beginning would mark who I had conversations with, who I needed to follow up with, and put them in a database and do a follow-up plan. So my whole goal to do that was to develop an advocate-based environment. So it works. So John McCain or Lance Loken in Houston, his team does 2,000 units a year. They have a door knocking strategy. Doesn't matter who you are, it absolutely works. You just got to have the, kind of the guts and the will to go do it, and have a strategy and at least a 6 month commitment to go do it. Anybody else has gone door knocking or has thought about it? Any limiting beliefs around it? Is it we're scared to do it? We think we don't have the time to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be the first to jump in. Yeah, it's absolutely, it's the fear of the unknown, which is funny though. I mean, and I don't, you could put me into a room of, 1,000 people, and I have at that point, I'm still comfortable. It's funny. I'll be comfortable if people coming together around a central area or issue. I also, from academia, a symposium, didn't know people. I had no problem just walking up to people talking. But it's funny though, but it's something in the mindset of, actually physically walking up to their door and knocking on it. There is a mental roadblock there.
Right. To follow on the conversation, let's take it
I
even
think
more
to
personal.
that
How many
point,
people have? Go ahead, Michael.
I'm sorry, was that Michael Dotson?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
It
Just
was.
to Stephen's point. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah, mostly. You're going a little bit in and out. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Maybe.
So just to Stephen's point, I think for me with door knocking, I think it's being prepared, knowing what exactly, what kind of information to have along with you. I think is something that would get in the way for me to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Michael, one thing that you could do is if you wanted to pick a hot neighborhood, right? Like if houses I'll just pick my neighborhood, right? The Rehoboth Beach Yacht and Country Club. For the better part of 13 years, there were probably 40 houses on the market. They took 120 to 150, 180 days to sell. Today, there are 14 or 15 on the market, and they are taking less than 30 days if they're priced right. So if you're just simply armed with that data alone, that we have an inventory issue here in our neighborhood, things are selling in less than 3 weeks. They're selling at 99% of ask price. You're a local real estate expert, and you're wondering if they know of anybody in the neighborhood who wants to consider selling. So you don't even have to ask them if they want to sell. You can say, do you know of somebody? So really you can arm yourself with a limited amount of data, but know it, right? Know what's going on and start door knocking in that way. And if you miss them, you can leave a little note card and says, hi, my name's Michael. I just knocked on your door, and to have a discussion about what's happening in the market. Love to educate you more. Give me a ring. If you want to know what's happening in the market, give me a ring.
Right.
Here are a couple caveats on door knocking though. Can everybody hear me? It's Carol.
Yep.
Yeah, you're good, Carol.
Okay. Couple caveats. Number one, you've got to make sure where you choose to door knock. HOAs may have restrictions on soliciting in their HOA. And also some towns require a soliciting license to door knock. So just be careful and do your homework before you decide to just jump in the car and start knocking.
I mostly agree with that, Carol. Sorry. Sometimes I'd rather ask for forgiveness, but you know, yes, you can get chased away.
I know.
Old people, there you will holler at.
No,
Yeah,
well,
I mean, listen, we
I'm
cold
glad
call
she
every
said that, because I
single
mean,
day.
What'd you
Go
say,
ahead,
Stephen?
man, I feel like the Zoom sometimes is funny how everyone starts talking at the same time. Everyone goes quiet for like 5-10 seconds. No, it was just going to make a joke. I said, I'm glad you said that, Carol, because, you know, after just now with the stuff Andy just said, I was ready to jump in the car. And if I ended up in jail, I didn't know who to call, you or him.
Right?
Call
Yeah,
Andy.
me.
He's the
Call
one
me.
that says ask for permission. I said ask permission.
Yeah, listen, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, listen, we call every single day, and you know, I hear from our team. We do a daily stand-up, you know, even today after we're not working in the office. Every single day I talk to my guys at 8:30. The whole team meets at 8:30. And every day we talk about how did yesterday go, and somebody hung up on somebody. Somebody told somebody to F off. Somebody said, I can't believe you're calling me right now. But better yet, they had 5 great conversations. They had 3 to 4 people to their database. So it's hard. You're going to get people that, you know, that's the hard part, to your point, Stephen. It's like getting the kind of the guts up to just go do it, or Michael to go do it. But you're going to have 1, 2, or 3 great conversations. You're going to have 40 that are not so great, and or didn't even answer the door, didn't answer your phone call. But, you know, it's kind of the mindset of I'm here to get 3 people a day. Or 2 people a day, right? One thing we encourage on our team is 2 people every single day that go into your database. And sometimes that will take 15 conversations to get 2 people, but that's their goal every day, is to get at least 2 people into the database. So any other comments, thoughts, or questions in regard to into door knocking? All right, so let's maybe move on into agent to agent referrals. You've heard a little bit about this from both Carol and I. It is something that, you know, we actively do. You know, I keep personal relationships. I'm looking at my email as you speak. There's even more coming in. I've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other responses in regard to our KW network referral. You don't have to be as extensive as I am. You know, one thing that you might consider doing is, if you want to do business, I limited mine to KW Connect. But let's say, for example, you wanted to say, go attack or go try to become an expert in 5 neighborhoods. You can go into Remind. You can download all of that data, and you can analyze to see where people are coming from that might have bought those properties. And then you can go find 6 real estate offices and build your own database, because there's Coldwell Banker, there's Remax, there's all the other companies. And if you simply put together a communication plan, you know, into that area, I mean, we know there are some communities where lots of folks from South Jersey are coming, or in Rehoboth, it's primarily, you know, lots of people from Washington and Baltimore come. So you don't have to follow the model of 2,100. You can go find a couple hundred agents and just start building a relationship with them, even if you get 3 referrals a year and you close 2 of them, right? That might be worth it. So there are other ways than kind of going to what we did, but I would tell you to put together a plan. You want to make sure it's consistent, that you follow it for at least 6 months, that you measure it and make sure that it's working or not working. If you want to stay committed, what can you do differently within that model? And to continue to grow it and manage it, maintain it. So, I mean, any other ideas on how you guys, go ahead.
Yes, this is Julie. So, you know, there are a few of us here that are not from Delaware. And
Okay.
even though I moved here from, you know, Rochester, New York, all of my, you know, most of my friends and family are still there. I also have friends and family, DC, New York City, you know, all different places. So, and they're cousins, you know, we're close friends. So is it is it something that you could like send an email? I don't know how I'd go about it. I've had this thought in my head, but so if I send an email to like all of my cousins that are either, you know, wherever they are, and ask them, you know, to expand, you know, and say, hey, do you have any friends or, you know, neighbors or people in church that you know of that are going to be buying and selling, and reach out to them to say, have them call me and I can find them an agent there? I mean, is that something that you've done before?
Sure.
Or what do you think of that
We've
idea?
not done that, but I will tell you, I mean, it's part of our conversation every single time somebody that we meet who wants to sell a property, we always ask the follow-up question, where do you intend to move? Right? So we go find them agents in their market space. So you could apply that same method to the people that you already know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think it's important though that the message you craft for them, you know, the intro is, I'm not just practicing real estate here at the beach. I have a network of agents that is part of the largest real estate company in the world.
Right.
That I can help, you know, someone you know or you find to help buy or sell in real estate. I referred someone last month, a buyer who's buying something down here in the 600-700 range. He had a house for $1.3 million in Washington, D.C. I referred it to an agent that I have a relationship with in D.C. He listed the property at 3%, $40,000 commission. I got 25% of that. I got $10,000 for simply asking the question of, do you have someone who can help you sell your house in D.C.?
Right.
Right. And I mean, it was as simple as that. And, you know, Alicia, every single time you help being a buyer's agent, make sure you're asking them, do they need to sell a property where they are, and can you help them find somebody? I mean, even if 1 in 10, right? And even if they don't use you on the buy side, at least you're creating a relationship, and maybe they're exploring South Carolina, Florida, and here for retirement, right? You can go help them find an agent in their local market. So absolutely, Julie, I would definitely do that.
Okay.
If you know, if anybody wants to have a very specific session on crafting a touch plan around that, I'd happy to do kind of an online, you know, Zoom session, whiteboard kind of session, and we can map that out, right? Once a month video, once a month email, and maybe once a month slide aisle or something to that effect, right?
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. You know, any other way you guys have, or any other ideas you guys might have on growing your referral network? I liked your idea a lot, Julie, around, you know, reaching out. The other thing you might do when you reach out to your friends and family in other places is ask them for 5 agents who they currently know are big in their market. And then you can add them to your database and reach out to them and say, hey, listen, I'd love to be a referral partner for you. I know lots of people in your market, and perhaps you know someone coming here. And again, doesn't have to be all within KW.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think that's a very easy way to start developing relationships, right? Your cousin Judy in Arlington, Virginia gives you 5 names in Arlington, and you even just text, right? If anybody has a Macintosh, you can text from your desktop. Even if you just texted those 5 agents, says, hey, Julie, my cousin knows you and said that I should reach out to you. Maybe we can be referral partners, right? It's just staying top of mind and keeping a relationship with them. So, sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead so quickly. So that's, yeah.
This is Pam. I did, as we were talking, I had texted someone that I used to work with this morning about, you know, they're going to be moving. They're in New Orleans now. He just sent back a note that they're going to be going to Texas, and yes, he will like for me to find him an agent in the town that he desires when he gets ready. So it does work, the, you know, referral business. I mean, it's not a done deal, but I mean, I got a good note back.
And leverage KW, right? I leverage KW every single day.
Yeah.
We're the largest real estate company in the world, right? I'm sorry, Julie.
No, I was talking to my husband.
Oh, sorry. I thought you'd say something. So it's 11:25. We're about halfway through. Do you guys want to take a quick break to grab something to drink or eat or run to the restroom? Maybe it's 11:25. Maybe get back together 11:35.
Sure.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Terrific. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started and kind of everybody back close to it. So we talked a little bit about door knocking. Obviously agent to agent referrals, kind of dug into that a little bit. Has anybody ever seen the KW in command, the referral process? So I actually describe it to clients and people that I know often talk about how you can take to go out and find referrals. It's actually quite brilliant. It's a little bit like going to hotels.com. You can actually go out and search for agents based on production level, based on volume, based on geographic area, things like that. And you can, help. That's one way that you can actually go out and find also where referrals or how to send out a referral. But it's also, they offer a great resource in terms of helping you track KW referrals as well. Let me see if I can pull mine up and show you a little bit about what we have within our system right now. So let me share this with you. So do you see where it says KW Connect right here? So let me try this one more time. Okay, so does everybody see this, the KW Connect page that I have up?
Yeah, Andy, make sure, I just want to make sure everybody knows that is not command, that is connect.
Okay, but I think it integrates into command as a tracking tool. So you can enter the data here, but it integrates into command and you can see how many referrals
Right,
you can
right.
tracking. Like that.
But I think
So-
you have to start it in connect to find the agents, and then it will populate into command. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd have to follow it through with Sandy a little bit better.
Actually, I think it's quite the opposite. So I think actually you can go to KW Connect. It is a place where every single KW agent is in this database. They do have an inbound and outbound tracking system, but also a way that you can grow your referral network as well, which is what we've done. You can see today that I'm connected to 31,000 other KW agents. I still have another 1,000 plus invitations going out, right? Because when
Andy,
KW,
Can I
Yes.
just stop you a minute? My question is, does this integrate into command, or can you only access it via connect?
it does integrate into command.
Okay. But
Right.
you access initially, you started up in connect.
Correct.
Okay.
So you can see I currently am tracking 10 inbound referrals. So when a KW agent wants to go out and find me as a referral, if they didn't get my communication via my 33 touch plan, and there's some random agent from Alaska looking for an agent in Rehoboth or Lewis, they can go to KW Connect. They can enter the referral if they wanted to refer directly to me, and they can then, and then I will get the inbound referral. It'll say, do you want to accept or reject the referral? So for example, if they thought I was in Salisbury regionally, they liked my profile, but we don't service Maryland, then I would reject it and explain that to them and potentially recommend somebody else. But just the other day, over the weekend, I think this was Saturday morning, Justin Lepiska, who's out of Harrisburg, PA, he has actually sent me a referral in the past. But he, sent me a note. It populated here and it asked, did I want to accept the referral? They're going to buy from 0 to 200,000. They were looking at Ocean View. And this is the way that he and I can communicate back and forth. He already put Mike and Lori Diller's phone number and contact info. I can go into the activity log. You can see Justin sent me a note. Hey, past clients of mine here in PA, they want to buy a property in Delaware. I just spoke to her and told her I put you in touch. I said, I responded immediately, same day. We'll take care of them for sure. They came down on Sunday, yesterday. They looked at property and they're likely going to make an offer in the next day or two. So it's an incredible resource as a place to both track your referrals, but also to find referrals. So if you go here to new referral, again, you can go say, all right, I'm looking for an agent based on production or closed units or listing sold, buy sides, or you can go into a certain market, and go look. So let's see what happens if I pull up Rehoboth here. Right? So you have a bunch of agents that, show up right away. Aaron Lee out of our office, me, Mike Kennedy, and these are all probably based on some parameter I set on closed units when I go out to look for people. But that's this is a great tool to start developing. Julie, when you talked about living in areas or having a relationship with people in areas, if you want to keep it to KW only, you can go back to Rochester and say, all right, I know a bunch of people still in Rochester, and I'm going to go connect with the 10 agents in Rochester to let them know that I may have a referral for them or 5 of them, and maybe vice versa. So I love KW Connect. I love it because I can go evaluate agents on it. If I want to go look at their reviews, I typically will go to Zillow to look at their reviews or Google reviews. But this is a great place to start to grow your agent referral network. So go back to the PowerPoint. All right. So, and then once that person's entered in as a referral, it will definitely populate in Command, and it'll be a tab in Command. Again, full disclosure, we're not using Command at a deep level right now, mostly because they're not prepared for Teams. I do understand that over the next 90 to 120 days, they are going to start to really beef up some of the components within Command that will allow us to go over there. And what that means, like, we have one transaction coordinator who's currently tracking 15 transactions. She needs to be able to see that at a senior level, and all the activities are going in, and Command just isn't ready for that. So that's why we're not there. Not that I don't believe in the system, because I'm really ready for them to do that. So we've talked about open houses. We've talked about door knocking. Really, I think it's probably at this point we move into a bigger conversation about what to do once you start to, execute and implement your prospecting systems. Then what do you do when somebody raises their hand or somebody gives you their phone number? What would you do with them? And I'll pick on, I don't know, John Loudon, if you're still on. What do you do if somebody you meet says, hey, listen, I'm interested, or I want to be kept up to date on what's happening in the market? What do you do with that person?
First, I would thank them for their interest, and then I'd enter them into Command.
Okay. And you're applying some kind of tag to them, met them at open house, follow up in 30 days, something like that?
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah, good. I know Command has some amazing tools and smart plans that you can apply depending on the type of prospect they are. For us, we basically have four categories in which we apply to people, actually 5, whether they're a buyer or seller. And then are they hot? Are they a nurture? Or are they just a watch? And then are they a close friend or someone within my sphere? So sorry, is it sphere, hot, nurture, or watch? And then how much do we need to pay attention to them? Or are they a buyer or seller? And so, and I know the smart plans in Command do a really good job, particularly for local homeowners. They can send you neighborhood reports, and effectively you don't have to do hardly any work at all. Most of it's done automatically in Command. So I would definitely encourage you as you meet more people, identify, add them as contacts, add tags to them, and be sure that you apply some type of plan in order to communicate with them, whether that's again, a neighborhood contact, whether that's writing a handwritten note once a month to tell somebody you're thinking about them. My former partner, so we sold his house in Falls Church, Virginia, almost 20 years ago. I will tell you that we actually still get mail about the agent, and she just keeps us informed of the market or something that she might be doing on her home for renovations. The point is she keeps us informed of other things outside of real estate, but it's a touch plan. And, in Falls Church, Virginia, she would be kind of my go-to person. So So that's kind of, is anybody today actively using Command and has applied any of those smart plans?
No, I'm prepping to start a smart plan, but I haven't, I have to complete the contact information first.
Okay.
Same here. I've got a lot of names in the database. I just need to figure out what to do with them now.
Right. And if they're local guys, the first thing you should do is just apply the neighborhood market update. Now they might be getting it from 5 other people, but certainly you can apply a call plan that says I'm going to call them once a month or once a quarter. I'm going to comment on them something on social media once a quarter or once a month. You can literally create reminder plans for each person in your database. Now, you know, we believe it's really hard. You know, we apply our communication plan in different segments. If they're a close friend or someone within our sphere, we communicate with them differently than we do with like a KW agent. We can apply some of the same stuff, but we communicate with them differently. So I would tell you it's very difficult to do anything more personal with anything over 100 people. So when I went after I read MREA and you know I ran for office, I had probably 4,000 or 5,000 people in my database people that I know. But I eventually said, who are the 100 people that I think will refer me business? Well, I came up with a hybrid and I have about 400. But of those 400 people, we actively communicate with them 50 to 60 times a year. And sometimes it is a personal text from me. Sometimes it is a personal phone call from me. Sometimes it's a dinner party for 8 or 10 people. So I actively and strategically work well within my sphere on a disciplined communication and touch plan with every single one of those 400 people. And people come in and out of it. But I guess my point is to, you know, not to get too involved, but is to apply some plan to every single person. And I don't care if you start with 12 touches a year. I don't care if it's the smart neighborhood update, right? Get everybody in and apply one plan and then look to see how you can expand on that. Anybody else have anything to add to that? Okay. Again, if anybody wants to see a little bit more about what we do, I'm happy to dig into that as well and show you the kinds of things that we do to communicate with them each month. And of course, there's lots of folks within KW. I know in our market center, Sandy Green and a couple of other agents will help apply smart plans with you and work with you within Command as well. Carol, you're a little more in tune with what's going on with the Command classes. Do you want to comment any more on that?
Yeah, there are Command classes. If you look at them, they're broken down into different things. What you really want to do if we're talking smart plans is go into designs, and that would help you a little bit. But more importantly, just that if you're in there and you've done some things and you have specific questions, Sandy Green has a link that you can actually schedule a 30-minute one-on-one consultation. All she asks is that you don't use that to learn the basics. She asks that you have attended some of the classes and have specific questions and have information into your database.
Where do we find her link?
I'll send it out to everybody. Who is that?
Alicia.
I'll send it out to you, Alicia.
Okay.
Right. So I'm gonna share. So I don't use Command, but it's a similar database. New share. Let me draw this out specifically. So this is an example of tags that we use in our database. So this particular person, her name is Amy Lindsay. You know, I have all of her info, her name, her email address, her cell phone number, her address, how long she's been.
Andrew,
Yeah.
we just still see the KW Connect.
Sorry guys, let me try this one more time. let me, all right, so do you see the PowerPoint presentation now?
No.
What do you guys see?
If you're a market center intranet,
It shows the Ignite student link for the class.
All right.
that's it.
Okay.
There you go.
So this is my, so we have two types of people that we have. So we have sphere of influence, and for us, I have Amy Lindsay. So she's in, I have all of her contact data here. I verified that it has a proper phone number and email address. Like Command, it'll show me if she's ever looked at real estate. She doesn't, but she's a raging friend of mine. And so we actually have a category called Raging Fan. She is a seller because I helped her and her husband buy, list a piece of land. And she is in Andy's sphere of influence because we have other agents on the team, so I can segregate every lead in our database by who they are. And we have two other categories. We started kind of a client appreciation program. It's called the Coastline Club, and we reward people that give us referrals. So last year, if you referred us someone, they didn't have to buy or sell, you automatically go into our Coastline Club, into our second tier. You get a free Starbucks gift card update every month for $5. You get invited to quarterly events. And actually, in this case, she qualified for a cruise giveaway that was worth $5,000. We had 41 people who were entered into that last year. And we actually had someone who won. But Amy has both referred me already, this year. And so she was in the Beachfront Club last year, which is the second tier. So she qualified last year, and then she qualified again this year, and you can see under 2020. So she's a great referral source, and we treat her with a lot of love. Now there are others, and let me just go to kind of the parent. Clear.
Andy, can I jump in with a question? It's Alicia. So you had provided an incentive of a gift card, it sounds like, for a successful referral. I started something like that at the beginning of the year. It was on the back of my business card, refer 5 people because I'm a 5-star realtor. And if one of them closes, I will gift you a gift card to your favorite restaurant. And I was told that we couldn't do that for referrals. So
we give it to anybody who referred us, and you can call Walt. You don't reward them if they close, list, or buy, but simply for the activity.
There we go. Okay.
Right. So we refer anybody for the activity.
Okay.
Right. And so here are some others. So these are actually real leads being entered by our folks that are currently prospecting of when they came in. So in this case, Alan Kleinman, I hope I get this correct. Alan came in from our outer geography call and was applied a hot, nurture, or watch. So this was a cold lead. We called him and said, hey, listen, would you consider selling your house? We have current cash buyers looking in your neighborhood. And Chris, who works on our team, entered Alan into the system. And we have criteria for hot, nurture, and watch. And then, of course, what source did they come from? So in no way do I think each of you guys need to be this diligent and this detailed. But the point is, we have a system on how to treat every tag in our system. So if I met someone and I think they're going to buy in the next 30 days, they're a hot. If I think they're going to buy in 30 to 3 months, then they're a nurture. And if they're somewhere between 3 months and a year, then they're a watch. And I treat each of them differently. I follow up with them differently. But the point is, we have a system in place for all of the tags that we assign to folks, right? In hopes that they're going to raise their hand to either buy, sell, or refer us somebody they know. So Any other questions about that? I know it's a little complicated. Remember, we've been doing this for years. I have a full-time operations person who helps manage all of this. But I want you to see that even an agent who's operating at my level with 12,000 people in their database, we're very specific on who is a hot nurture or watch. So let me see if I can. How many hots we have in our system. So we have 12 people that they as agents do believe that they're going to buy or sell in the next 30 days. When's their last login, when their last touch was. So you can see 4 days ago, 19 days ago, 27 days ago. Somebody's talking to Heidi and Matt Young right now, 16 days ago. So we're very specific about what our requirements are, depending on what someone is tagged. In nurtures, we have 146 people who've said they're going to buy something in the next 3 months or sell something in the next 3 months. Now, we try to do a really good job of having ongoing conversations with them, and that's why they only get into hot if we really think they're hot, and then a watch is much more. So, but you can do all of this in Command, which is an amazing database for individual agents. And I would encourage you guys, if after today you do one thing, is to make sure that anybody that you have in your phone, anybody in your neighbors, they don't have to be a hot nurture or watch. It just might be someone you communicate with on a consistent basis and apply a tag or two too. Any questions about that? All right, let's go back to the PowerPoint. So again, contacts, follow-up, stay top of mind. It's our single most important thing that we can do within our environment. So let's keep moving on. So open houses. How many people, by show of hands, or if you want to comment, are currently doing? I guess we're not really doing open houses now. Even virtual open houses are a little bit difficult, but let's say before March 15th, was anybody actively doing open houses?
Felicia, I was, but I had a conversation with myself that I was going to stop doing that because of the success rate. But again, now that I've sat in on this discussion today and heard some of the ways to creatively utilize, maximize open house, I'm open to continuing on with those should we be able to do them again in person.
Yeah, I mean, Alicia, we're really lucky, in that we pick up a buyer here or there on open houses. There are agents like Michael Kennedy. He's an open house master on the buy side. So his goal is to go out and make sure that he has a super meaningful conversation with every single person that walks in the door. We utilize it as an opportunity for listings. Right, building that relationship by knocking on their doors and then adding them to our database, things like that. So there's definitely a strategy that can be used for the open houses. What are some other ways that you guys think that we could, that you could do to stand out to a buyer or seller walking into your open house?
Can I jump in here a minute, Andy?
Yeah, go for it.
Actually, next week, Monday, I think it is, we're going to have an open house specific course here. The thing about open houses is you have to remember, it's not just drop the sign in the ground and open the door and turn the lights on and sit there for 2 hours. It should take the whole week of preparation. So that is going to be highly intense class on specifically open houses and all. Personally, I think open houses can be a great source, especially once we can get face-to-face. I'm a little not so happy with the virtuals. I mean, yeah, maybe you can get a lot in social media engagement, but I still think open houses are a face-to-face kind of situation. And when it's open up, I think if you use all the guidelines that we're going to set forth for open houses, you're going to see a different success. Let's face it, you're only committing to 2 or 3 hours. So if you sit those 2 or 3 hours in your home, I can guarantee you have little to no chance of somebody knocking on your door for a lead. If you take those 2 to 3 hours, prepare properly, and take your busy work for connect or for a command, and you sit there and you are prepared to engage anyone that walks in that door, you have opened up the opportunity of meeting someone. And that's the purpose of open houses.
Right. And, you know, there are some strategies in those open houses that you can use once people get into the door. I mean, you know, I've seen people hold a raffle, raffling off a gift card for everybody who, simply enters their information on a piece of paper, right? People are pretty reluctant to fill anything out. But if you said, hey, listen, after today, I'm going to give a $25 gift card away, for everybody who registers, well, there's an opportunity, right? You just capture their name, their phone number, their email address, and gives you a reason to give them a call, right? I'm sorry you didn't win this month, but I wanted to follow up on a conversation that we had while you were there. I noticed you were looking at 123 Main Street. Is that the only area you're looking in, right? And then start a conversation from there. So there are real great strategies on open houses. We typically just chose that not to be ours. We'll do them because sellers sometimes want them, but there are other people who will run an open house every single week with a real intent and plan to get buyers and potential sellers from it. So I think to Carol's point, from an open house perspective, make sure you're ready. So I'm happy to share with you our detailed plan for what we do. Everything from sending a seller, a list of things that they need to do to get prepared. Make sure you put away your private belongings, make sure you put jewelry away, make sure that all the lights are on, make sure that the house has been cleaned. I mean, it's kind of like, here's your prep list to get ready for the open house. Then you as an agent, here's what's to do to get prepped. You make sure you understand the comps in the neighborhood, whether you decide to knock on doors on surrounding neighbors the day before, the morning of, make sure that you have the right papers for people to fill it out, or if you have an iPad or a tablet, you want people to enter their name directly into a database, you can do it that way as well. And then most importantly, what is going to be your plan after they were there? Again, that, the idea of anything that we're doing is so that you can put people into your database and then you can apply a plan to follow up. Make sense? Great. So moving on to the next slide. So when it comes to social media, again, I don't have a tremendous amount of experience in terms of going out to get business from it. We sometimes will share our success in what we're doing, or we try to provide something of value. Like, hey, by the way, did you know that the average house is selling in 31 days versus 40 days? Or over the last 60 days, prices have increased by 1% as things are selling for 99.2% of last price versus 98.3%, or something that. So we use it to provide something of value to get people to call us. Other people are using it much more heavily. Alicia, I'm not trying to pick on you, but you had talked about social media. Can you share with us some of the experiences you've had in terms of getting business from it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. I've not heavily used ads yet, paid ads. Believe that Matt talked about doing a class on that, and I'm anxious to definitely jump into that. What I do is very basic. I don't even use my business page. I use my personal page, and I just ensure that I'm striking a balance between letting people into my life and also slipping in real estate. And so far that has worked, right? So maybe today I'm sharing an inspirational scripture or message just to keep people encouraged during this COVID-19 time. And then maybe I'm sharing a real estate tip a few hours later. Then maybe I'm sharing frustrations I'm having with my 19-year-old being home with me and making everybody laugh. Then I have a closing the next 3 days, and boom, let's congratulate so-and-so. She's a nurse. She just closed on her first home. Who's next? How can I help you? Send me a DM if you'd like to have a consultation with me. So that's kind of my strategy. And like I said, it has worked. And I do, get quite a few buyers, even when I'm not looking. Like, even if I don't post a call to action, I'm just sharing, hey, today, congratulate my client. I'll get inbox messages, hey, I want to buy a home. And I'm usually attracting a lot of first time home buyers, doing that. So this Thursday, myself and DR Horton Builders, we're doing a Facebook Live Q&A. It'll be my first one since the pandemic. And so we're just going to take about, 20 to 30 minutes to just answer people's questions. And the topic is buying new construction in today's market. So that's basically how I've been using social media. When we were doing open houses, I would go live at every open house. Give people a tour of the open house. The sellers really like that. And I got, buyers that way too. So.
That's great. That's great. The way I heard it described a couple of years ago, I think I was at family reunion and I went to a social media class. And the way that someone described it, it's a jab, jab, hook. Personal, professional, right? That's kind of how, and I just pulled mine up. I think, can you see my personal page? So, right, like I updated my profile pics of my mom and I. She, unfortunately passed away at the end of March, and I didn't say anything. It's personal, right? My next one was, hey, Rehoboth Main Street's doing a survey on what's happening in downtown, right? And that was my post from yesterday or the day before, right? In this case, this is all about real estate, but nowhere did I ask for business. I actually complimented Krista Valiant, who's our photographer, and I actually, kind of like wanted to engage people to see something really pretty, but oh, by the way, I did it, right? We did this. This is part of what we do. So on fire, every time Krista photos one of our new listings, right? FYI, I'm slipping it in, but I'm in awe of Krista as an artist. Thank you for doing what you do, right? And how many people? 40 people, 40 people liked it. We got 5 comments on it, beautiful, she's really talented, et cetera, right? I mean, even other agents commenting on it. So, so that was a little bit about real estate. This is the interview series that we do every Friday. I did it with the Cape and Lopin Food Basket. It's a live feed directly to my personal page. I also live feed it to our business page, and there's some tools that you can use to do that. But I, 200 people who watched my personal live interview alone. And this is not Andy Staton, real estate agent. It's here's some insight into me, but also here is something we're kind of leaning in and doing for the community. So last week I wanted to buy a bunch of new hats, hence my new dogfish hat. I'm like, I want to buy a bunch of hats. Who should I buy, right? You got some people liked it, 47 people engaged that I'm trying to buy from our local community. So nothing political, nothing about religion. I don't get engaged in any conversations in our community that is related to the COVID-19 or the opening or anything else. Everything I do is about me or leaning in about the community. That's my personal social media strategy and has been since 2012. So, I've got, almost 5,000 friends. I've got people who friend me all the time. This is a training session I went to back in October, November in Charlottesville with a bunch of other KW. They tagged me in it. Big shout out, blah, blah, blah. I try to keep, we were highlighted in a pool magazine last week. And so I literally just share real estate related stuff that leans in also on community-based activities. So, 262 people like it, right? Interview, yeah, right? Who would have thought, right? Something as simple as, and you thought you had issues. It's funny.
Hey, I'm looking in a mirror right now.
Right? You keep top of mind, but 430 people liked it. Listen, I'm just staying in front of them. Here's me. I bought a pair of shoes from the Rehoboth Running Company. Shout out to Mary Beth Evans of the Rehoboth Beach Running Company. I needed new shoes. She knew what size and brand I liked. She dropped them off my front porch. So that's my social media strategy. So, I went for a bike ride with my friend Carlin and, et cetera, et cetera. So guys, your friends want to hear from you. And if you can see it, it's jab, jab, hook. I post something about real estate once a week, but it's not all about me and come list or sell with me. It's something more about real estate or something that I'm doing in and around the community for and by about real estate. So,
Andrew, just real quick, at that when you said you went to that social training class, was that actually Gary Vee that was teaching it, or was someone teaching Gary? Because that's Gary Vee's book title. That's his like mantra, the jab, jab, hook. I was just curious if Keller had actually been able to bring him in.
You know what? Now that I think about it, it was actually an agent. Maybe you've heard the name Ben Kinney. He's probably one of the top 3 producing agents in the world. It was a buyer's agent or somebody on his team that was teaching the class. So,
guys are like, wow, man, I'm definitely gonna if they're bringing people like Gary Vee, I'm there next year.
Yeah, no, I mean it's legit. When you go to a family reunion, I'll be honest with you, I've been 3 years or 4 years. There is some amazing content if you dig into the classes. There's some stuff that is a little bit of a waste of your time and you don't learn anything, but I always come home with lots of notes and I try to take 3 things that I learned and try to apply into our business.
Sounds good.
So, yeah. So, your social media strategy does not have to be anybody else's. The only thing that I can tell you is try to provide value if you're going to talk about real estate or do something or anything related to real estate. So, let's go back to PowerPoint.
Annie, I just want to jump in. It's Alicia. Yep, I agree. Talking about, just a really basic post once every now and again, and just a tip of the week, of the month. It'll tease people to ask, or just ask a question.
Sure.
I found that to be successful. One thing I do want to just share, my very first check in real estate was off of a referral business, just from me commenting on an Instagram post. One of my husband's friends got married. I thought she still lived on the Eastern Shore, so I congratulated her and told her, let me know when you and your husband are looking for your forever home. I'd be happy to help. She said, we are looking now. And
right.
I said, do you have someone helping you? She said, no. And I realized that they had moved over the bridge. Super new. I mean, I was maybe a month in and my broker at the time helped me to find an agent across the bridge. And one thing just led to the next. They hooked up with that agent and they bought a $500,000 house over the bridge. And so my first real estate check was $3,300. In my first 3 months of real estate, just being on Instagram, looking to see what people are doing in their lives. So.
Totally. I mean, Alicia, to your point, we use a stager. It's part of our service offering on listings, is that everyone, I don't care if it's a $15,000 mobile home or a $2 million house, everybody gets a free consultation by our stager, right? And so in the same way I highlighted Krista, the photographer that we use, I use our stager all the time. My God, look at this magical transformation that Lucille Caban did of Just Right Home Staging did, right? It's when she takes a look at our listings and transforms them, it's one of the key reasons that we're selling homes so much today, right? I didn't ask for business, but I highlighted something important that somebody needs to consider when they're going to sell their home, and something that we do for all of our listings. So I always think about it from that perspective. Like, if I were a consumer, I hate to say it, on social media, what will get me to like something or to pass it by? And someone asking me for business gets me to pass them by. Someone showing me something that they're doing in their business that I think is interesting gets me to hit like or love or whatever that might be, right? So that's the kind of I would keep that top of mind as you guys are doing your own thing, right? So I think, if you friend me or follow me on Facebook, you'll see it's very, very consistent across the board. And you can see even on this slide, right? 80% personal. So that's, we just talked about jab 2 times and then the third time being real estate. This is basically saying go 4 times personal, 1 time real estate. And don't be afraid to highlight success stories. Your client who bought a house, maybe they're available for an interview for 2 seconds, or maybe they'll do a testimonial, right? That's powerful. People love that stuff. So what are some other ideas or things that all of you might be doing that you could share with others in regard to social media? and I don't think I'm friends with any of you, so I can't really comment. Sandra, Sandy, are we Facebook friends? I think we are. What are you doing on social media, if any? All right. So, all right, I tried to pick on somebody. So kind of moving in, taking action, developing a plan. So, right, we're talking about prospecting, talked about what to do within social media, stuff like that. This is a big part of it, right, is taking action and developing our own plan around the 2 or 3 areas that you want to focus on, right? You guys saw that we don't have 5 ways of prospecting. We're prospecting within 3. And that's what I would explain, that's what I would encourage you guys to do as well. The average MREA or multi-million-dollar real estate agent gets most of their business from 2 lead sources and 90% of the business from their top 5. So,
This is Carol.
What's that?
How are you? Good. You don't have my name in your phone?
I think Carol is taking a phone call.
I'm putting her on mute. So, hey, Carol, can you mute?
Sorry, guys.
No worries. No worries. In a KW research, it showed that the top lead gen sources for most MREA agents is, in fact, referrals, within their sphere of influence and other agents, repeat business, and finally, towards the bottom, there's still a lot of agents who are out there buying Zillow leads and things like that. So, again, you don't have to keep it to the 4 or 5 topics we've talked today. It really can be what your own source is, but the biggest thing is just putting them somewhere and into something. So,
Andy, can I ask you about Zillow leads and your thoughts on that? It's Alicia again.
They're expensive. Let me step back and say we did it, right? We did it for a couple of years. We bought Zillow leads. We're spending at least $1,000 a month in Zillow leads, and they're constantly evolving. But when we were doing it, we paid for X amount of leads, and 60 to 70% of those were actually on land lease property. And we didn't want to be in the market of mobile homes. And there are definitely agents that make massive amounts of money in this company from doing mobile homes. But we found it really hard to segregate between people coming in and being a paid lead on a mobile home versus a house that might be 3 or 4 or 500,000. So they'll give you all these return on investment models. They'll sell the heck out of you and tell you why it's worth it. Guys, we have follow-up systems. We have a Google phone number that rings every single person's phone number when somebody inquires through Zillow or other places. We didn't convert them. And I think we have better systems than most in terms when it comes to that. So I don't really tell you often what to do, but I will tell you I would not invest your money in Zillow. When they call you, say thanks, but no thanks.
Thank you.
So is anybody doing Zillow or anybody getting phone calls from Zillow? They're they prey on us. They prey on me every month. Sarah, you're laughing.
I get a lot of phone calls from them. I don't really engage.
Yeah. Sarah, you're laughing. Have you gotten calls?
No, I haven't. I was just trying to first of all, I'm really enjoying this, by the way. Thank you, Andy. But yeah, I was one of the things that I have, just because, again, all of us, or not all of us, but mainly just starting, but Op City was one that, I've been doing, trying to kind of find this balance of, where it's helping me, certainly, but then also when to take a step back from that. And it just kind of, all these different platforms and all these different lead sources and everything online, and just how much more involved, and especially, again, brand newbie, but it's learning where to invest the time and the balance and, all of that. So just,
Yeah. So, on the next slide, I think it's page 13 in your handbook and your participant guide. Here's a perfect activity that you could each take to narrow down what your 2 or 3 things that you want to do instead of doing 10, right? So it looks like this person analyzed their last year and said, okay, where have I gotten the most opportunity and where do I want to focus, right? So in the list, they said, okay, we got 10 leads from door knocking, 7 phone calls from our sphere, 2 agent referrals, et cetera, FISBOs, open houses, social media, et cetera. Then they listed in prioritization and then said, okay, what 2 to 5 areas am I going to focus on because they had the biggest impact? I mean, that's the biggest thing, is really categorizing every single lead that you get. So if you have 1 listing on the market and you got 3 signed phone calls, guys, I hope that you have a pen and paper or your phone somewhere handy to write down every single time someone calls and says, well, what's the price of that house? And they don't like what they hear. You might flip it and say, hey, by the way, is this the only area that you're looking at? There are other houses on the market in this neighborhood and the one next door. Can I, and then lead them down the road of getting contact info. But at least you'll know how many phone calls you got to get your sign, how many agent referrals, things like that. So I think this is a really, really great exercise for everyone, including me, to decide which is the most important. And we do it in our business, in our business planning in November of every year. It's how we shifted away from direct mail. 10 years ago, I was getting 15 to 20 listings from direct mail. In my last year, I got 3. It wasn't a priority to me anymore, although I was nervous about dropping it off. Once we did a prioritization schedule, we thought, oh my God, we're spending all this money on lead gen through postcards, and the time and effort and aggregation of data. Oh my God, it was an absolute nightmare. But then when we realized we don't even touch or call or communicate with our past clients or sphere of influence, and at that time we were getting 50% of our business from it. And then I read MREA and said, you should talk to them 33 times a year. And that's what I applied before I came to KW. I applied that plan in November of 16 for the year of 17, and we grew by 40% that year. I thought, these people, Keller Williams, kind of know what they're talking about. And that's why I moved. It is, you will hear me tell that story in every training session I ever deliver. Is I took one thing out of MREA, and that was executing a consistent touch plan to my past clients in my sphere of influence. And today it proves itself every single day. At least three times a week, somebody's coming out of our sphere or past clients to talk to us about something related to real estate and eventually buying and selling or referring. So, this is a good example for any new agent who's getting so much data from KW. And I love KW, but the training is overpowering. Use this one slide to help you identify where your best opportunities are. I watched a webinar on Friday. I'm in a professional coaching program with a couple of guys out of Arizona, and they're in a business called Metrics Consulting. And you probably have heard Bridget Taylor talk about Jason Abrams. And Jason Abrams said, I'm right now, all my agents are calling into their sphere and simply using a basic script. Hello, how are you? He calls it the Adele script, right? I mean, everywhere you go, it's sphere of influence. I don't know what to say to people. How do you call your neighbor and talk to him about real estate when you shouldn't be talking about real estate? Right? How do you call your client who bought 2 years ago that you have a good relationship with, but it's really been mostly business? Hey, how are you? Right? Good strategy when it comes to that. So if you guys leave today with one mission, I would say start thinking through this, taking action and developing your plan. And I will make myself available to any of you to help craft a plan if you can go through this exercise and decide on the 1, 2, or 5 areas that you want to focus on. Okay. I guess there's an activity, and I don't know that we have enough time to go through and develop a prospecting plan. But again, we'll kind of go through the next few slides, and we can talk through that if you guys would like. So, the idea behind it, but only having a half hour left was to take you through this. So maybe we can do something together. who have I not heard from? I don't know, Michael Dodson. You know, kind of tell me about what's going on with you, and is this all new to you, or do you have some kind of plan in place? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I don't see a face, I only see a name, so I'm going to call you out.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm very new to all of this. I just got my license in February.
Okay.
So I'm kind of, you know, honestly, as we said here, you mentioned that you wouldn't recommend paying for Zillow leads. So I was. So I just went on and canceled all of that because it wasn't getting me anywhere. I wasn't able, you know, I guess, you know, close on anything. It was mostly just people looking, not really in the market at this time.
Right. And that's part of it. And I'll be honest, they prey on you, right?
Yeah.
They prey on us. I mean, they call me all the time. I know if it's a 720 phone number coming in, I don't even answer it because they're based out of Colorado and that's where they're calling from.
Yep.
So, you know, so given that, I mean, you know, what have you perhaps learned from today that you can take out and say, okay, this is what I need to do to get started?
Honestly, I think it's, you know, combined with, you know, other classes we've done with Ignite. It's, you know, geographical farming. It's getting out. It's finding an area that I want to be, quote unquote, an expert on, and start making those calls, honestly, and just reaching out to people in those areas, and you know, connecting, see if that they themselves or someone they may know, you know, just asking, you know, are you, you know, looking to buy or sell? Do you know anyone looking to buy or sell?
That's right.
So
That's right.
yeah,
I
so
mean,
that's
I
definitely
gotta tell you, you won't know unless you ask. So that's a great
right.
mindset today with, right?
Yeah.
Start building the database and then start to call them. Who do they know? Do they or who do they know one? So, Joy, how has this changed your thinking? What ideas or mindsets are new to you, and what do you think you'll take away from today?
Yeah, I don't know that it's new, but maybe a little more influence or action towards the social media than what I had originally thought. It seems like, you know, it's certainly at everybody's fingertips, especially when they're all quarantined inside. Everybody's looking at social media and what have you. So I think if nothing else, I'd be leaning a little bit more towards that than what I had originally thought.
Okay, good, great. Pam, what about you?
Andy?
Yeah.
Okay, this is Pam. I like the idea that you said focus on one or two things on the prospecting, because I think sometimes we tend to try to be all over the place, and I think you mentioned you need to narrow it down a lot, and I really like this class a lot, by the way.
Yeah, use this. I'm telling you, just use this, right? And decide on, right? If you want to schedule a one-on-one with me, I'm happy to like literally work through a plan.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah. I like social media, you know, but I'm finding that most of the people that I am friends with are not quite ready to do anything during this time. And but I do like Facebook.
But there are people they know who might, right? As I said, and we use this in our team all the time. In the worst market, you know, in the last 20 or 30 years in real estate, that I'm sorry. Let's go back to the best market. I think there were 5.6 million homes sold, like in 2004, 2005. In 2008 or 9, there were 4.6 million homes sold. So 75% still bought or sold property. So, you know, to your point is, even during this COVID-19 market, we know that a year ago, there were 2,200 properties on the market. As of this morning, there were 1,536. We're 35% less listings. But what that means, if you go look in the activity, people are still buying and still selling because there are people who need to. So there's no doubt that if you have 10 people in your phone, at least one of them is thinking about it, or they know somebody else who's thinking about it. So, Sandy, you had something to offer?
Yes. I was trying to answer your question earlier and didn't realize I was muted. Andy, this class has been fantastic. I'm just barely into my second year, I apply every single thing on your list except do very little door knocking, and I'm convinced now I need to add that to my marketing plan. One other quick thing I wanted to say is use your LinkedIn. I have more than 10,000 contacts in my LinkedIn, and every single day I add Keller Williams agents to it with a little note that I love to pay referral fees.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I mean, again, Sandy, I appreciate that, but I would say only attack door knocking if you think you can consistently apply a door knocking method to that, right? To practice and understand the script at the door, to make sure that you do it 3 or 4 days a week. Again, don't pick 12 things, try to narrow it down. If you think that's one thing you want to do is knock on doors, then I would say, let's help you develop a plan to knock on doors.
Okay, I'm a serious introvert. I know I don't come across like that, so it's very hard for me.
Yeah. And, and I understand that. And this is really a daily success habits, right? And that's kind of where I'm really, leading into. We always hear about, block calendaring and all the things that you should do. I mean, I'm a pretty good creature of habit. We every single day at 8 o'clock, I meet with my operations guy at 8:30 every single day. The entire team gets together. From 9 to 11, we're prospecting. From 11 to 12, you're doing lead follow-up, right? So those are the first 4 hours of every single day. I'm doing a little less lead prospecting right now, mostly because we're managing so much going on the team and marketing and trying to be a little bit more prospecting heavy right now to make sure that that we're getting the same amount of inbound leads. But also my sphere is pretty loyal, and I do touch them constantly through both our regular activities, but also being social and reaching out and that kind of stuff. So I'm not cold calling as much as I used to, but that's what the folks are doing on the team. They do it with a regular schedule. So I would encourage each of you to apply that. We hear it all the time, apply some type of regular schedule. I say the agents are our team. As long as you're at it from 8:30 to 12, I don't care what you do after noon. Right. Hopefully after 12 o'clock, all your efforts of prospecting and phone calling and knocking on doors and following with your leads to appointments in the afternoon. But I don't care if you go play golf every day at 12:30. I don't care if you want to go surfing. As long as you're focused on the activities that are on your calendar for the first part of the day, I know that will eventually lead to business opportunity. And that's what, Chris Massengale on our team did. He joined us in January of 2019. He had never sold any real estate before that. He'd been with Long & Foster for 8 months. I sat him down, and he will admit it today that he never thought cold calling was going to work. But last year, he sold a little over $4 million in real estate in his first year. This year, I think he'll probably sell 8 to 10. And he's on it. He's doing it. He's prospecting, and he's super busy, which is great. So, and that's simply by just applying a schedule. So, again, there's lots of philosophies on how many, I'm sorry, go ahead, Sandy.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to raise my hand.
Okay. So, there's lots of folks, 10 contacts is added a day, 10 conversations a day, 10 handwritten notes a day, 10 home previews per week. Again, just as long as you have something scheduled in what you wanted to do against everybody in your database or everybody that you're adding to your database, there's lots of programs that you can follow. Something that we also firmly believe in is scripts. We hear it all the time. And the argument, lots of people says, oh, but my conversations are different. And how many people by a show of hands or have been to an Apple store? Right? And I always ask the question, what happens when you walk into the Apple store? Exactly the same thing. Every single you walk into an Apple store or an NV home sales rep or anywhere else, or even to your local restaurant, hi, my name is Sally, I'm going to be your server today. What can I get you to drink? Right? That's a script. We practice scripts constantly on our team because we have to understand not just what the script is, but more importantly, what the objections are, right? Cold calling's hard. And so we have really specific activities. Like if I called and said, "Hey, listen, I got a cash buyer looking to buy in your neighborhood," your response might be back to me, "Really? People are still buying?" Yes, of course they're buying, and they have cash, right? Or tell me about, right? We have a routine, and we actually have a script for 4 different no's, right? No, I'm not ready to sell right now. Terrific. Do you know somebody who might be willing to sell? Right? Or I'm thinking about selling. Terrific. Other than price, what would motivate you? Right? We're very specific about what the scripts are. Benny Kinney talks about, if you've ever never heard his story, go find a video on YouTube or in KW. I'll tell you that if you can't make 1,000 phone calls using his script your first week, you're bounced from the team. They do script, that you got to learn the scripts, you got to practice scripts, and you got to apply the scripts. And they work once you get more and more comfortable. But that's what our guys are using every single day, and they're adding people to the database based on that. So, we use it for lead generating. We use it to uncover people's motivations, right? Just by asking questions. When we ask a question and they turn back and ask us, we always acknowledge and ask a question. Answer, ask a question. We always try to keep people talking and try to dig into more about what they want. Identify objections and practice what you can do around that. And then, of course, with the drive to try to close deals. I'm probably a little more on the hyped up side. I like to dig into numbers. I can talk stats all day long, so I'm always have to be cognizant of speaking in terms customers understand. That's I got to be careful about that sometimes. And then, of course, scripting absolutely helps you build confidence, right? Stephen, when you said, I think it was you who said, I might start, I'm just not going to door knock, or I'm scared to death of door knocking. Doing script practicing with other people certainly will help build that confidence, but eventually, and that's why we do role play as well in our team. We role play constantly around these scripts, finding a role play partner. Jared Bowers, again, who's the #1 agent in our company in our market center here in Southern Delaware in 2019. He's a monster on the phones. Last year, I think he listed 90 properties or 100 properties by himself, right? He sold something, $30 million in real estate by himself last year by simply being an animal on the phone, starting at 8 o'clock every morning, calling expired and withdrawns. But just a couple of days ago, he reached out to members in the ALC and says, I need a script partner who's willing to, who would raise their hand. So even the guy who's the most qualified, successful person I know who gets on the phones every day is still looking for script partners and to do script practicing every day.
Can I jump in here, Andy?
Sure.
As far as the scripts, everyone, if you go into your Ignite toolkit, there are scripts for elementals and there's scripts for the launch. What I want to do is, we talked about our weekly classes on Fridays, what we're doing for our coaching classes. I want to start integrating time for script practice then. So I want to make sure that you guys bring your scripts to class on Friday at 9:30. Okay? And we're going to break that down a little bit. And if you look in those, there are plenty of scripts for all different things. Open houses, for sale by owners, buyers, sellers, social media, all kinds of things.
Right. Yep. Of course, there's compliance issues, guys. Just make sure, if you're going to be cold call prospecting, either use a service like Mojo or one of the others that will run it through a do not call list. Know your state and federal laws. And if you get caught, just apologize. People ask us all the time, where did we get their phone number? And we always say it's public data, right? Even actually Alexis on our team says, I don't know, I was given a list to call, because of our clients that are currently wanting to buy, and, she just passes it off. And then obviously honor customers' requests all the time. Somebody says, you know what, don't ever call me again. Terrific. Have a great day, and I'll make sure we remove you from our list, and we will never call them again. So just common sense. Right. Get help. Obviously, feel free to reach out to me if my contact info hasn't been put out. Carol, maybe you can put out my contact info. I'm happy to, engage in a conversation. I live and breathe and eat. I love it. I love helping people. It's probably the, you know, when I started by saying to Alicia or someone else that I love helping buyers, I love helping people. That's what drives me every day. I don't, you know, I'm grateful, successful, and I'm glad to have a good income. But most importantly for me is to help people, and money follows people. So that's kind of where I started with that. There's lots of resources out there. My secret to this whole thing is just focus on 2 or 3 things. There's so much coming at you. Just focus on 2 or 3 things that you can do and do it consistently. So you can print this out and just say, okay, what do I need to do after today? If you still don't know, call me. We'll schedule a time. We'll sit on Zoom. I don't care if it's 7:30 or 7:30 at night, in the morning or at night. I don't care. Happy to help. And I think that kind of wraps it up. I'm 20 minutes early. If you guys have questions, no questions, I'm happy to stay on for as long as you want, and we can dig in a little more. If you have questions, I can pull anything up that you might want to see that we do. And there's just lots of stuff, but we're constantly thinking and trying to evolve and do more stuff.
I have a question, Andy. It's Alicia again, and maybe if I have to call you and talk offline, that's fine too. I don't know if my question would be helpful to the group. But someone inboxed me last night asking me if I do property management. She has a home that she's looking for a new company to take over, and I would like to convert that into a listing. So I didn't tell her no, that I didn't do property management. I don't do it. My goal in calling her, I asked her, could we talk this afternoon? My goal in calling her is to find out what her needs are. And if I could possibly turn that into a listing. And I wanted to know if you'd ever encountered that and any tips you had.
A lot. And for a long time, still today, I'm giving away property management leads because they don't always want to sell, right? Your best thing that you can do is listen to what their needs are. And if they need a property management, you should have someone in your conversation.
I do.
And then more importantly, put them into your database, find out what their motivations are. If they, are they considering buying another?
Okay.
Right? Another buyer. You know, how many other properties do they own? Right? And are they having somebody property manage them? And if you brought them a great deal, would they consider buying? And then of course you can add them to your database and to your communication plan going forward. I will tell you that starting June 1st, not that I can help you in Maryland, we are launching a property management company and rental management company called DelawareRentals.com. We've been working on it for the last 6 weeks. That's kind of my COVID-19 pivot, is to look at areas that we haven't been performing and where can we expand and grow this. Because nobody's really, nobody within our KW market center is really focused on long-term year-round rentals, and so we're launching something like that. But other agents, I mean, are you sure you don't want to do it? And I say this because it could become a residual income for you, even if you're only doing 4 or 5 of them. The reason I say that, Mike Kennedy, who's the number 2 agent in our company, he wasn't doing it. Now he's doing 4 or 5. They collectively amount for about 10%. About $10,000 a month in rentals to 5 different property owners. He takes a 13 or a 15% cut. He's at $1,500 a month, $18,000 a year. Right? It's a second stream of income for him, and he's only doing 5 of them.
I'm open to that. I don't think I knew that I could do it. I thought you had to have some additional certification or education for that beyond a realtor's license.
You do not. Now, I don't want to comment in Maryland, so you might want to call Walt or someone you trust over in your Maryland offices about that. But in Delaware, you do not. No certifications, no different licensing, no nothing. I did go to Matt Fedek, and I said, Matt, in fact, I have a call with him at 3 today to talk about the launch of our rental company. You basically can use KW for escrow accounts, so to take deposits, and then you need a separate bank account for operations, right? Okay. Yep.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? Okay. I don't know if I offered much wisdom, But I'm going to leave you with pick 3 areas and just do it. If you need help doing it, call me. We'll walk you through it.
Thank you,
Andy,
Andy.
thank you. I
Yes,
think you
Andy,
gave
thank
them
you.
all,
Thank you, Andy.
Thank
Of course.
you.
Thanks,
you're
Andy.
giving them that vision of where they